customer might complain that sometimes that this car comes in, their car comes in and it will either barely move, no move at times, and we seen it once, we put it in drive and it moved forward and reverse, not a big deal. Then we tried it again and it didn't move. Okay, so what they decided to do was put a pressure gauge on this thing, and they found out that it only had 20 psi's. More than like, a lot of times when we see these things come in not moving, we think that there's a problem with the pump on for this transmission, because they do have a lot of problems with them to where the pumps go bad or the pressure regulator valve gets stuck on this thing. I want to go over some things that can cause this type of problem, especially because we put a pressure gauge on this thing because it's an intermittent no move forward or reverse. So we put a pressure gauge on it and it's showing 20 psi's. Well, if we have 20 psi's, that's kind of telling us that the pump is working, but why are we not having no movement on it? Okay, and that 20 psi's is really the key. Okay, right here we're looking at the pressure or the EPC solenoid. Okay, now the EPC solenoid, if it goes bad, it can cause low line pressure to where it does not want to move. Okay, it's stuck in a closed position, won't let any pressure go to the transmission to apply the clutches. Okay, so if we want to change this EPC solenoid on this thing, we need to pull the valve body down because we cannot get past the connector on this thing. So once we got the valve body down to check this thing, there's a couple things that we want to look at that could also be causing this problem, because the EPC might not be the whole problem. Okay, we have a solenoid pressure release valve right here in the valve body. Okay, and what can happen is it can get stuck. This check ball that's right over here can actually get stuck in the open position and will cause no line pressure, because it's supposed to be in the closed, send line pressure throughout the transmission, get it to move forward and reverse. If it's stuck in an open position, it will not move. We can go ahead and just get a punch inside there, push the valve, push the check ball back and forth just to make sure that it's okay. And as I said, since we got to take the valve body down to change the EPC solenoid because of the connector right over here, we can check that also. While we're there is we want to check the valve body gasket. This valve body gasket right over here can cause a problem to where if the rubber silicone breaks on here, it can cause low line pressure also, because it just leaks past and will not allow the clutches to engage properly because of the low line pressure that it will cause. Okay. Next thing we want to do is we want to look at the pump. Okay. Now, if you take a look at the book, the arrows were not pointed in the correct position. They were just pointed into empty air. So I just wanted to make a note of that. That we realized that when we printed the book out, the arrows were pointed into empty air. So we just making a note that we saw this thing. And so we wanted to make sure that there is this air bleed capsule right over here is there, and it is not stuck in any way. Now, they can pop out sometimes. They have a tendency to pop out and get lost inside the transmission. You might find it someplace else inside the pump or something like that. What we can do is, if it is missing, you can go ahead and tap it and plug it, and it will be okay. It doesn't really need that plug there, because there are, if you look into some of our old seminar books that show you the configuration of what pumps can match with each, you can see that this air bleed capsule was removed at one point. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the pressure regulator valve on here. Okay, yes, we are showing you a 4L80E pressure regulator valve also. Okay, but there's a reason for that. Pressure regulator valves on a 4L80E uses a boost valve system, to where the 5R110W does not use a boost valve system. Okay, so there's a difference between the two, and I'm going to go over that just a little bit in briefing on that. Okay, how it works is that the non-boost pressure regulator valve gets 90% of it through the EPC solenoid, and the pressure regulator valve only controls 2% of it. Okay, and we get that figure by the tension on the pressure regulator valve spring. Okay, it's usually about 2.25 pounds. So when it strokes open, that's only 2% of the pressure that it gets. Okay, where on the other hand, 4L80E, you get approximately 30 psi due to having the boost valve on there, and that is configured because the boost valve pressure regulator spring uses about 1125 we have in our book. So the way it opens, the valve strokes, and the pressure that it gets through the boost valve causes line pressure that way. So it doesn't use the EPC as much for line pressure for the application and for the shifting as a 5R110W. On page 23, figure 7, I'm taking a look at the way the pressure is on this thing, and this picture right here is showing how normal pressure should be. Okay, the EPC solenoid is working correctly, the blow-off valve is working correctly, and so is the little capsule over here is working correctly, and everybody is happy at this point. Okay, this is figure 8, and this is where the pressure control solenoid is no good. As we can see right here, there is no oil flow, no pressure. Okay, see here, no pressure coming through there, and that's when we will only have approximately 20 psi's on our pressure gauge with the trans not moving. Figure 9, this is where the blow-off valve is stuck, and we can see right over here the little symbol here, the air is blowing past it, and that will cause no movement. Again, still approximately 20 psi's, because the pressure regulator valve is actually working, but we're blowing off mainline pressure through there. Next, we are going to look at figure 10, and this is where the pump valve is, or blow-off valve is stuck. So when it is stuck there, the mainline pressure for the EPC pressure will blow off through there and leak into the transmission, again causing no movement.
Thank you for watching. For all confirmed fix videos and unlimited technical support, become an ATSG member, your transmission tech solution. Click the membership link below.